Thanks, Taylor. I am indeed a little bit closer than you, but I'm sure you'll meander down to your lions and get a nice view. Now, everyone, the lions that Taylor has and the lions that we have here are the same types of lions. They're both African lions, savanna lions. Panthera leo is their genus and species name. You get different lions outside of Africa in India, but there's only about 60 of them left in the wild. And the rest of them all in the wild all occur in sub-Saharan Africa. So everything south of the Saharan desert, which is about 2/3 of the continent. Now our drone's back and up and about, and there you could see us and where we're parked, and then there's our very, very sleepy lions. So the only other time I've ever had a view like this, other than the drone, was when I worked in Botswana. So Botswana is on our northern boundary. South Africa is like this, and Botswana is just up in here. So South Africa, Botswana, Mozambique's over here. It's a little bit hard, I don't have a map, but we can try this way. And in Botswana, I worked in a place called the Okavango Delta, which is an amazing, amazing place. It's basically a huge wetland area, okay? And it rains in Angola, and then the rain filters down, and then our wintertime, your summertime, the whole of the delta fills up. And to get to our camp, which was far in the west, we had to fly these tiny little planes that fit about 2 people, sometimes 4 people. And you would fly, and you'd fly really low, and you could see lions like this, and you could see hippos in the channels of the water and elephants. It's one of the most amazing things. So that's the last experience I've had, and so I'm really excited to be sharing my new experience of the drone with all of you today. It's too much. Now everybody, if you have any questions about lions, please, you must send them through, and we love your questions. But also that question that you asked earlier about guiding, that was an excellent question. Anything you guys want to know, we would like to hear from you, so send them through your teacher. Ooh, good question. You all would like to know why we find so many animals near rivers. Now, that happens because in certain areas you have water just, say, in a river, or sometimes just in little pans or little dams, and east and impala who need water, and buffalo who need water every day. Elephants can go up to 3 days without water. Lions and leopards can get a lot of the moisture they need from the food they eat, but they eventually need some water, and so that's why you tend to see them around there. Lions and leopards you also tend to see near water courses because everything they eat, well, most things that they eat go towards water as well. And so that is one of the reasons why you see so many animals gathered there. We're very lucky as humans. We have piping systems that bring water into our houses. For many of us, there are still many people in the world who have to walk very far distances. There's places in South Africa, not far from where I'm sitting now, where people still have to carry buckets, and they walk down to the river and they fill those buckets with water, and then they walk to their house. So that still happens as well. So we need, as humans, need water. We constantly need water. I think we can go 21 days without food, but I think we need water. We can only go maybe a week or so without water, something like that. So our bodies as mammals, so mammals are covered in hair, and we have babies that grow inside and then come out as a baby, not as an egg. And those are some, and we also nurse our babies and provide milk for them. So that's mammals, that's us, that's the lions that are in front of me here, that's elephants, zebra, wildebeest, the warthogs you saw with Taylor, the leopard you saw with Scotty D. All of those things need to nurse. Even hippos, they nurse under the water for the most part. Something like a crocodile doesn't nurse their young because it's a reptile. Their babies are born in eggs. What else? Snakes also. Most of them are born with eggs and they don't nurse their babies, and that's one of the reasons how you tell the difference. And birds would be another way that you tell the difference as well. Now, something like a reptile needs water but doesn't need water the way that we need water. So crocodiles need water to sort of live in, but in our dry season, our winter season, they'll go and they'll something called aestivation. It's a type of hibernation. So hibernation happens when it's cold and wet. Our aestivation happens when it's cold and dry. So if you were to go to Arizona, for instance, you would get reptiles there that aestivate, and then they go into little areas where they make their body temperature very low, and then they wait in there until there's moisture, because without that sort of moisture from the rain or around, or a little bit of water sources, then they do something called desiccation. Desiccation is basically dehydration, and then their skin doesn't function properly and their bodies don't function properly either. Alrighty, so I would like some, sorry about that. Taylor, who's up in the Mara. So the Mara is in Kenya. It's about 1,600 miles away from where I'm physically sitting right now. She has found her lion, so I think let's head on up to her and you can see if there's any differences.
We've also got lions, finally. So you were just with us a little while ago and I said to you that we'd spotted a lion. It turns oh my goodness, and exposing a whole bunch more cubs that I couldn't see. Now I have to do another count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 8 young lions here of varying ages. Well, the really small ones look to maybe only be about 3 months old, so they're quite new still, which is very cool to see such young lions. Now there are quite a few other people in the sighting with us. Look like they're just waking up. I think we've got here at the perfect time, in fact. Sometimes when you find lions, they can be a little bit boring to watch, I must be honest, because they'll be fast asleep. Sleeping under the shade, sleeping under the trees. Sorry everybody, I do apologize with all the moving around. You might be able to hear the cars. And just flicking his tail, trying to get rid of the flies. But not all the girls are waking up just yet. Everybody else seems to be quite sleepy. There's just 3 that have got their heads up, and 1 is grooming themselves. So who knows? But even though I said that sometimes they can be quite lazy and that they need to rest and sleep and conserve all their energy, you never know what might happen. There's lots of zebra. Those warthogs weren't too far away. There's Thompson's gazelle. There are lots of animals around here. And with all those youngsters, you can imagine, as adults have got a lot of work ahead of them. They've got to go and she's got to make sure that she catches something for them to eat. Now, all of you from Alanton, you're wondering why they're breathing so hard. Well, it's because it's a little bit warm today as well. So when we sit and we watch warthogs or elephants and buffalo, when they try and get cool, they normally splash around in the mud or the water. Lions like to pant, kind of like dogs, to try and help cool themselves a little bit quicker. Sometimes though, you can see if they have eaten a big meal, and it could be on a freezing cold day, you'll often see them panting like that too. You think to yourself, but it's not hot, or what? And then it would be because they might be tired, and also when they eat so much, because the lion will gobble as much as it can down in one go, and sometimes it looks like they've swallowed a beach ball. That's how big their bellies get, and that will push up on the diaphragm, and then they can't take short, shallow, deep breaths. They can't go. They've got to breathe very quickly then. But all these lions look like they're different ages. There's some really tiny ones, like that one that's finding the tail really fun to play with. And then there's some bigger ones, like those ones. Oh, there's another little one. Careful who you flop on. Now, you're all wondering if lions only hunt at night. No, they don't. That's a bit of a old wives' tale, I'm afraid. Lions hunt whenever there's an opportunity around. So, even though they are relaxing like this, imagine something like a waterbuck or an impala or even a warthog comes charging through those bushes and doesn't know that these lions are here. Those lions will jump up and they'll try and catch whatever comes charging out of the bushes. It's just at night time, it's a little bit easier for them to hunt because the animals that they're going after can't see as well as at night like they can. You can see that little one finds that tail to be the best chew toy, and I'm sure Mom is quite happy that some of the older siblings are keeping the little cubs entertained. It's a hard day's work for Mum, especially when she's got youngsters like that. But I don't know which pride this is. I don't think I've seen them before. I think this might be the first time that I've actually seen them, in fact. We're in the area that Malika likes to hang around in with her 2 boys. I thought we were going to see her. Malika's a cheetah, a very famous cheetah, in fact. The last time I was down here, she was not too far away from here. She actually moved past 2 other cheetahs, 2 Imani's daughters. It was very exciting. It was so exciting. And then we had lions close by. So this is a good spot to find a variety of different cats. You know, you may even see a leopard, because there's some nice drainage lines that the leopards would like to live around too. But now we've got the biggest of all the cats in Africa. This is beautiful. But you see, there could still be more hiding away in the bushes, you know, and we just can't see them. But I might not be able to show you a leopard up here in the Masai Mara, but my friend Scott down in South Africa in the Sabi sand, well, he's in leopard kingdom.
Well, I'm very happy that even though Taylor can't show you a leopard, she did get to show you some lion cubs. It seems like I don't think we're going to have too much luck for the kids at Allenton with the little leopard cub, but you'll have to keep tuning into Safari Live because we do have lots of sightings of that little cub, and it is so cute that I promise you it is worth your while trying to get a look at it. Like I said a little bit earlier, though, it's still quite warm though, and they have both been feeding a lot over the last 36 hours or so. So they've had plenty of food, and I think they're going to just rest and relax until it cools off a little bit more. Now, some of the kids at Allenton would like to know, why did the leopard take its food up into the tree? That's because she's very clever. Not all leopards will always do that, and the reason being is that she knows that if the food is up in the tree, it's going to be far more difficult for hyena, or almost impossible for hyena, to steal the food from them. Whereas if it was on the ground and some hyena came onto the scene, the leopard is not big enough to be able to try and stand up to hyena, even if it's just one of them. So she's done it to make sure that nobody steals her food. If lions were to come across this scene, they too would also have a little bit of trouble climbing the tree. They definitely would be able to climb this tree, but it must be said that lions are not nearly as good of a climber as the leopards are. So it's kind of like stashing it in a bit of a pantry. And we're not too sure how she ended up with 2 kills in that tree. We're not sure which kill she made first, but obviously she would have caught one of them, put it up in the tree, and then just been, you know, sitting and relaxing like now. And then maybe the waterbuck family came into the area and she took that opportunity. And like I was saying a little bit earlier with the lions, the predators aren't necessarily as good of a hunters as we all think they are, and it's very difficult for them to catch their food. So whenever they get opportunities, even if they are full, even if they already have a kill, they will definitely make the most of that. Very good. We're going to stay put with Thandi and send you back up to Taylor. I'm not sure if she's managed to find any other lions lurking in the bushes. She seems to have a feeling there might be, so why don't you go and have a look?
Well, we are still staying put with our lions as well, Scotty. I think it's a good idea to sit with our cats today. But here we have one of the older lion cubs playing with one of the little ones. So I was just staring. I think that there's 3 different ages of cubs here, because there's some really little ones, and then there's some that are a bit bigger. Well, Paige, you're wondering how big do lions get? If you can take the biggest dog you can think of, so I'm sure you all think of a Great Dane. They're not quite as tall as a Great Dane, but they weigh a lot more. But they're very, very big is what I'm trying to say. I can promise you that any of you standing next to a lion, you would all look like tiny little things in comparison. So a big female like the one we're looking at now, she can weigh anywhere between, I'd say, about 300 and 350 pounds. This will be a big girl though, which is quite big. And then the male lions can get to even more than that. They can normally weigh anywhere between, I'd say, about 350 and 450 pounds or so, so much bigger than the girls. But those little cubs, however, won't be anywhere near that size, but they'll be growing lots and lots every single day. But it was great to have all of you joining us from Allenton Elementary, and I look forward to chatting to you all again. I'm sure I say the same for all the guides. And remember to brush your teeth, do all your homework, and listen to what your teacher says. But from us here on Safari Live, we'll hope to see you guys soon. Right, very cool. I always love it when the children join us on safari. That's always a lot of fun. Don't worry, everybody. I'm going to try and figure out what pride of lions we have here. Bird's eye, similar cats.
bird's eye view. We're driving. We've decided to go and check on the rest of the Nkuhuma pride that we had this morning that Scotty D found on foot. And you get to go with us, but not from well, we're in the car, but from above the vehicle so that you can see how it all works. So a lot of the times your view is like you're a guest with me on the back of the vehicle, because you are my guest, you're my viewers at home. And now you get to be a bird of prey, wandering about the bushveld, the low veld of South Africa, the savanna as it were. And I'm wondering if all of you will be able to spot the rest of the Nkuhumas before I can. It's entirely possible, especially for where the drone is. And we are going to have a look. Now I hope everybody's day has been really good. It is still Feline Friday. And we have, again, lots of felines out and about, not just here in South Africa, but also up in the Mara. And don't forget, we are coming to you live, and we are interactive. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on YouTube chat, and you can send them through. Also, maybe another platform that you're viewing us on. And we love your questions and your comments, so send them through. Interact with us. It's absolutely fantastic. All right. Justin, you're saying you love the elevated view. Justin, I also love the elevated view. I love what I do, and I'm so lucky to do what I do every day. But today, with this drone, I'm like a little kid in a candy store, Seb and I, traversing around, and I'm checking the screen every now and then, and watching just how incredible it actually is. I'm really enjoying it. I was also very surprised at how used the lions got to the drone. At first they were looking up, and it sounds like bees to me. They were looking up and they're going, huh, and then they realized that it was attached to us, and they're like, ugh, whatever, and then carried on. Now the lions we're going to at the moment are a little bit younger, so we might have to give them a little bit more space with the drone, but we'll just have to wait and see. Elephants, I would imagine, would have an interesting time with the drone, because elephants don't like the sound of bees. I worked with a few what we call problem elephants, so it's just elephants that keep getting into areas where humans are habitating. We need them to be not there, not large. And one of the things we used to do was to record sounds of bees and play it loud, and it would move them off. All right, now we've got the drone down real low on the ground and watching us. Hi, everybody. And we're still looking for these cheeky little lions. I have a feeling that they might be in the drainage line here. So I don't know if we can maybe try into the Mulwati. And sorry for the back head every now and then. Just checking. All right, now the final area, and I believe Scotty D is moving on from. So head on. What he's up to.
Shame, it sounds like Noel's signal was a little bit shaky there. We've moved out of the sighting of Thandi. There's quite a few people that are interested in seeing her, so we've made some space for them, but we'll certainly return a little bit later if some spaces open up, which I'm sure they will. We are now on the move looking for yellow-billed hornbills. I've been tasked to try and get some shots of yellow-billed hornbills calling, so that is what we will be doing. So while we continue on our quest for some hornbills on the move, or singing at least, we're gonna send you back up to the Masai Mara with Ralph.
Thanks, Scott. Well, everyone, we left the lion, we left the river, and we came up to the swampy area, and we've found lots of elephants here, and lots of little youngsters as well, which is always nice to see. And you'll see these elephants dotted all over this area here, happily going about their grazing daily chores as they continue feeding on the grass here. But wonderful to see. And once again we've got a lot of storm clouds brewing, but for the moment we're staying nice and dry. We're just enjoying watching these little youngsters as they try their best to grab some grass, but sometimes not being very successful. So they just stick their mouth in it and try to chew it off. You can see that trunk isn't going exactly to plan. It's not really going. It's fun to watch the youngsters with their new little trunk. And thanks for sending in all your comments, folks. This is really wonderful to watch. I always enjoy watching young elephants because they're so well looked after by the adults, but they do get up to lots of nonsense as well. And you can see the adults just going about their very chore-like feeding. They just need to do that all day, every day, just about, to feed that massive frame that they have. A couple of nice sets of tusks on them. And you can see the Olololo escarpment in the background there. And that's where we stay, up on top of that. But back to the elephants. Lauren from Illinois, you're wondering when a baby elephant would take his first drink of water. Well, Lauren, it can be up to a year before they actually get a proper drink of water, because it's only at about a year of age that they actually get full use of that trunk. And I'm saying in general, because each individual elephant will be different, but it's around about that time when they actually start to be able to use it properly. And this one is, I think, a little bit younger than a year, because you can see it's almost like a fireman's hose that's under pressure, and that trunk is just going every which way. And I've seen them next to the water sometimes. Dylan, you're wondering what is wrong with his ears. Dylan, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with his ears per se. They're just curling over a little bit, and they do that when they're very young. So I'm sure as it grows, it will sort of flatten out, and so I wouldn't worry. There's not too much wrong there. But that's one of the ways also to see how old they are. When those ears are just about touching or overlapping on top of the head, that means they're also under a year of age. So this one probably heading towards a year of age. It's really trying to use its trunk, but up until about a year they will still be suckling from the mum. They'll suckle for a bit longer than that as they learn to use their trunk, and then they start to feed on a bit of branches and some grass and softer things, and so then there's a mix of milk and vegetable matter. And then a couple of years later, up to a couple of years later, they can still be drinking some milk from their mum, and eventually they will then be just eating on the grass and the vegetation. But it's quite unusual to see elephants only feeding on grass like they do here, but I think it's pretty much down to the real highly nutritious value of the grass that we have in the Mara Triangle. And at least there we can see him nice and clear out in the open. Seems like a very healthy little guy. Now, Gizmo, you want to know if the elephants have feelings in their tusks. Gizmo, not particularly. I'm sure that they can feel a little bit, but it's very much the same as your teeth. So the way that you feel your teeth, that's pretty much the same that they feel their tusks. So they can break them sometimes. It depends if they're brittle or not. They can also break them maybe if they're fighting, but it doesn't really affect them too much, and they don't feel too much pain. It's only if it gets injured right at the base where it goes into the skull. That's when they would get a bit hurt. But if any of that exposed white part breaks, it wouldn't hurt them at all. Very much the same as your teeth. But it's always interesting to watch elephants, how they interact with each other, because they are very sociable and they do very much look out for each other. And there's two little youngsters seeming like they're having a bit of a wrestling match. One's lying flat on the ground, the other one doing a pile on. He's saying, jump on, come on, keep him down. He was playing dead. Yeah, there we go. He's alright. The little youngster is getting the one up on him. They're always very playful, are the little ones. You see, lots of touching and feeling, very tactile are elephants as well, especially with the trunk. And very often they can sort of touch and feel, and then they put their trunk in their mouth. That's also very much sort of getting not just a smell of things, but a taste of things as well. You know, tasting your neighbor, and that's a way for them to sort of communicate between each other too. So elephants communicate in many different ways. Tactile communication. They've obviously got lots of vocal communication that we don't even hear because it's too low for our eardrums to pick up. We actually only hear, I think it's about a third of what elephants actually communicate. And lots of rumbling and all sorts of really strange noises that we can't even hear, but they have a really intricate communication system and very intelligent animals indeed. They liken their intelligence to that of dolphins, and we know how intelligent dolphins are. So elephants can feel emotion, and they can really change their mood on any given moment. That's why, for me, elephants are one of the animals that you really need to watch very closely, and because you can't judge their next move as well as you can with other animals according to their exact behavior. Elephants can be a little bit unpredictable. Almost like humans, you know, you can change from being very happy to very angry in an instant. Well, elephants can do exactly that. Now, Paula, you want to know if I've ever seen a blind elephant. Paula, I have seen an elephant with very poor eyesight. I saw a very old, well, I've seen a couple of them, but one in particular, I saw a very old female who had actually then left the herd and gone on her own. She must have been 60 plus years of age, so naturally coming to the end of her life. And she had obviously lost most of her teeth in her mouth as well, because I encountered her on foot, and I actually tracked her. And we tracked her dung because we could see that she was very old. There was no grinding going on of the food. She was literally swallowing whole leaves and branches and all sorts, and it was coming out almost exactly like that in her dung. So we knew that it was an old animal. Because of that, once they get their last set of teeth and that wears down, then they're pretty much passing food through, and they lose condition slowly. Anyway, we did find her, and she was really skin and bones. Her hips were showing everything, and when she turned a little bit, we could see that it looked like she had cataracts in both eyes, but it didn't seem to bother her too much in terms of her navigation and so on. She was using very old elephant paths, probably walking routes that she had walked for the last 60 years. So she was doing things pretty naturally. The only thing was she was really losing condition because of the fact that she was passing the food straight through, and I'm sure she didn't take long to die after that. But it was quite heart-wrenching, but nice to see in one way that sort of end of the line or end of the path for the elderly in the elephant world. It's not often that you get to see them like that, but it was obvious that she had separated herself from the herd as well, because once they get old like that and they do seem to be quite weak, it's quite possible that the members of the herd might even kill her in a way of putting her out of her misery. So sometimes they will separate themselves in trying to survive. So everyone, I think I might move forward in a minute just to get a bit of a different angle on these elephants, but they are so fun. I don't think I'm going to leave them anytime soon. But while I do that, let's head you on over the other side of the river to Taylor and her lions.
We've got mystery lions because I have absolutely no idea which pride of lions this is. I have not seen them before. I don't think I've seen them before. Like I said, this is the area where I've seen Malika and her 2 sons and Imani's daughters sort of passing one another. We're not far from the Talek River. So I don't know if that helps any of you as to what pride of lions this could be. I have sent Jamie a pin and given her a description of every single lion here. No, not. I just told her how many there were and the kind of dynamics, and hopefully she's on her way home safely. When she gets that, she'll maybe give me some intel. A lot of the guides have moved off, unfortunately, before I could get to speak to them. Hello, Gil. Are you going to come up towards us, or are you also just going to plonk yourself down somewhere around there? Now, Arabella's, you're wondering, how can you tell the age of a female lion? It's so difficult. Aging animals is not an easy thing. It takes a lot of practice. You've got to spend a lot of time with them, and of course seeing animals of varying ages helps, and also following them from when they were really small to, well, as they grow up helps as well. But typically you can look at the teeth. That's the most accurate way to age, especially a predator. Their teeth, as they start to get older, well, like most animals, they start to go yellow, they start to be worn, you know, some of their canines may be chipped. So if you look at their teeth and you see that they're fairly white, they're probably only a couple of years old. Otherwise, you can look at things like their ears, if they're quite tatty, they've got lots of scars. Ring true though, because the amount of time we've seen very old lions with very pink noses is far too high. But typically younger animals have got a pinker nose and they tend to darken as they get older, and then also on lions with the spots. But again, depending on the individuals, some lions keep their spots for their whole lives. So you can see them all around their legs and on their belly. They also tend to fade with age. But again, if you use all of those things in combination and you just guess, because that's all we're doing, we can't know for certain. Sometimes we can. We have a good idea. What's going on over there on the left? The youngsters are getting rowdy. But most of the time we're just sort of guessing. We're estimating their ages. But like I was saying, it would be nice if all the youngsters could get together so we could see how big those small ones are. Because there's some youngsters that look very, very young. And there's others that look like maybe 3 months old to 4 months old, and then there's one in there. Maybe it's the runt of the litter, and perhaps that's why it looks so much smaller. But it really looked a little bit skinny and looked like it had shrunk a little bit. But anyways, we'll stick with these lions for a little bit longer. There is a storm brewing in the distance, and it sounds like thunder, and I think I can see some lightning, so we might have to start moving soon. Ralph seems to be staying high and dry on the other side of the river with his elephants.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, and we are staying dry for the moment. However, there are some very big storm clouds brewing. But we've got these elephants now in wonderful golden light. And there is a lot of them, all grazing through this lovely green and rich area full of grass. We've got elephants on either side of us now. But they're continuing happily feeding. There's nothing to worry about, and everybody quite calm and relaxed. Remember, we always make our approach from quite a distance with elephants. We let them know that we're coming, and if we do want to get a little bit closer, well, we do that very slowly, and we also watch their behavior. If they don't like that we're in the area, well, then we don't go any closer. So we only go as close as they allow. Now, Sinak, you want to know if I think that the elephants are the most intelligent animals in the bush. Sinak, I would definitely have to say out of the big 5 that they are the most intelligent by far. Now, I'm just trying to think of of another animal as intelligent as an elephant, and for the moment I can't. So I'll have to say yes, Sinak. Especially on foot, it's one of the animals that you do think that they are the most adaptable in terms of the way that they think. But I think a couple of animals that come close second or third would be the likes of animals like honey badger and hyena, also very intelligent. But I still think that elephants are by far superior in their intelligence than even those two. But they're also very clever animals in their own right, hyenas and honey badgers. And there's also some very intelligent birds, like crows and Indian miners, but they wouldn't compare with any of these animals. Look at that. I'm just keeping an eye on one of these elephants that is quite close to us. She's very relaxed. She's feeding near to us, but just keep my eye on her as she comes close to us on the other side. But look at that. They're all just wrapping their trunk around the grass and then throwing it into the back of their throat. Now, First Lady, you want to know why the elephants don't just take up a rest in one spot? Well, I'm pretty do continuously try to get the most green and lush grass, and so sometimes they can stay in pretty much the same place. Look at that tactile, just touching and feeling around the mouth. That's a real communication there. So they can stay in one spot a little bit, as this one is doing now right next to our vehicle. She's happily feeding here, but they do slowly just move through, trying to get a little bit more grass that's nice and green. And then what we have noticed is that during the day they come down here by the swampy area, but then a little bit later towards the afternoon they head up towards the Olololo escarpment. Now I don't know if Archie just wants to turn and just have a look at this female. Yeah, hello girl, hello, we don't mean no harm. Okay, she's slowly grazed towards us. She's got a little calf with her. She's very close to us now, but I do have a straight line escape route if I need to. But she's very relaxed, and I just keep talking in a nice calm tone. And you see, she's also staying in one spot, feeding happily. There's no aggressive signs that she's shown us whatsoever, so we're quite happy to be in the same space as she continues to graze. It's always nice when we're in such close proximity. And she's got a little calf just behind her that maybe she's just blocking out of view. So if we just listen quietly, you can hear the grass as she's feeding right next to us. Look at that. See how she wraps her trunk around the big clumps of grass and then feeds, putting it into the back of her throat. So I'm just being a little bit quiet, everybody, because I don't want to disturb her. I don't want to surprise her. But a little bit of a soft talking tone can also just keep the situation nice and calm as well. Now, I don't know if you can see on that picture, but their eyes are an amazing sort of amber color. I don't know if Archie's able to get in nice and close there. You can't get much closer than this to an elephant, everybody. It's quite happily feeding here, hey? Look at that. Wow. Beautiful eyelashes as well. When you look at elephants in their eyes, you can almost see their intelligence. It's the same. I've looked at dolphins in the eye many times while I've been surfing, and you do see that there's intelligence back there. See? If you act like you don't mean any harm, generally you don't. Now, Coast Rider, you'd like to know what grass species she's eating here. Coast Rider, as far as I know, that very green, the very green grass. There is a bit of kikuyu, I think, here in Kenya, but we've also got some of the red oat grass. There's also the eragrostis species, which is some of the finger grass, also very nutritious. There's a bit of couch grass as well, Cynodon dactylon, if you want the Latin name. So there's a bit of a mix, but there's definitely mostly very nutritious grass here. So there's all sorts. There's also some guinea grass or Panicum maximum. If you know anything about grasses, I hope that has tickled your grass fascination. And if you want to know more, I really enjoy grass species and the different ones that we get, but you can see a lot of those like finger like protrusions. That's obviously your finger grass, the eragrostis species. That one there that had like little hanging dumbbell bells, that's the red oat grass right there. And obviously they're not exactly after that inflorescence or the flowering part up at the top. They're more after the leafy base at the bottom. So everyone, from this amazing experience with these elephants and being so close next to us, let's head you on down south to South Africa and Noel, who's in search of some more big cats.
We went and had a quick look for the rest of the Nkuhumas, and we couldn't find them with the vehicle or the drone. So it's entirely possible we missed them, but I have a feeling that they're inside the Mulwati and resting up in the shade. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the other females because they are hungry, and I'm hoping that they're going to hunt for us, and I don't want to miss anything. If perchance we don't get anything with them, as it cools down, we'll go back to where we saw the other ones this morning. It's not too far away, so it's entirely possible. And other than that, we really haven't seen much. There's not a lot of water around. There's no water in the dam in front of Djuma. And there's a little bit of water in Galagopan, but there's not much around. So we've been seeing a couple of impala and a few waterbuck, but nothing like what we normally see. So I'm tempted to say that in the next sort of half an hour, as it starts to get dark, things will move towards quarantine, but the lack of water might stop it. So Dylan, I believe you're asking, would a pride of lions be able to hunt and kill a rhino? Most definitely, Dylan, if they know what they're doing. I used to work with 2 male lions on another reserve that were very good at, just the 2 of them, at taking down full-grown black rhino. So we've got some kudus up in front, and some impalas, and some nyalas. Sorry, not kudus, nyalas. So I'm wondering what's going to happen with the drone with them. We'll have a look, and we're actually not far from where those lions are. We're probably maybe 400 meters. So like we're hoping they are making their way slowly but surely to quarantine. There they are. So cool. Look at the big shadows. I think that's my favorite part about these drone shots, is the way that the shadows look. I have friends that do photography from those little 2-seater Cessnas, and when it's in Botswana and in Namibia, and especially over the deserts of Namibia, the shadows of those gemsbok and a giraffe that side, and if you get desert elephants, is amazing. So we're doing our own little, it's so dry here, it's almost like the desert. We're doing our own little shadow shots here. And not bothered with the drone at all. They're carrying on as per normal. I think they're more interested in us than anything else. Again, elephants are bothered by bee sounds, and then the lions, at first the bee sound was a little bit interesting, but notice how the bee sound with the impala, it's not really bothering them. So maybe it has something to do with the way that elephants hear, the frequencies that they hear at, that sort of buzzing noise. That would be my guess. Beautiful. And impala are always gorgeous. We stop for impala often, but you know, it's nice to recap. So impala, for anyone that's new with us, and I've been noticing we're getting lots of new viewers lately, it's fantastic. Spread the word, everybody. Female impala, no horns. Males impalas have horns. And a lot of that has to do with where impalas live. So impalas will be in open areas, but also in thick bush. And so it's harder for the females to have horns. It's harder for them to get away or to camouflage themselves. Now, something like a wildebeest, which I hope that we see more of today, and maybe we'll get a view of them up in the Mara, depending. Wildebeest, both males and females, have horns, as they tend to be in more open areas, and it also helps deflate the testosterone in the males when they're busy migrating that sea of horns. Now, I believe we're going to head on over to Ralph, if I heard properly, who is, as we know, up in Kenya. So let's head on over to him and see what beautiful things he has to show us, and we're going to head back towards our lionesses on a quarantine.
And, well, everyone, if anyone's been following me in my last few game drives, and since I've been here in the Masai Mara, we have had this mystery of these little baby elephants with the missing tails. Well, the mystery continues, because here's another one with a really strange looking missing tail. Unfortunately, it's just gone behind mommy, it looks like. But there's another example of seemingly a tail that has been yanked off, and only happening to the youngsters. But, well, that's a mystery we're going to have to continue on until we find some evidence, some proof of what is making their tails fall off or get pulled off or whatever it is. Anyway, something really strange that I've never seen anywhere. And that one has been, looks like, bitten off or yanked off right at the base. So whether that was a very lucky escape, or if they've got some problem around their tails, I don't know. I actually want to try and speak to the head ranger of the Greater Mara National Reserve and see if he's got any insights on it. But, well, for now, I'm just enjoying the company of these elephants, and I'd like to think that they enjoy my company too. Bobby, you're asking, could it be a birth defect? Well, Bobby, I also thought that to start with, but the more I've seen some of the youngsters without tails as well, there's been a real wound in the area. This one seems to have healed a little bit, but I'm still convinced, because some of them have been half tails and some of them fully gone. So I don't believe that it's a birth defect, but nothing, I don't have any evidence for any of it. So that is one angle that we'd have to see. We'd have to see a little baby born without a tail for us to be able to prove it. And any of the other theories would have to also be witnessed to be proven. One of the theories was that it's boisterous play between the youngsters. However, I've never seen elephants anywhere in southern Africa, and I've seen a lot of elephants in my life with this kind of injuries, especially more than one of them. And there's a lot around, and there's some adults with half tails as well, but their sort of wounds have healed over, and I still think that it happened to them when they were young. So my best theory is that it's one or other kind of predator, and the one that makes the most sense to me is crocodiles in the Mara River. Now, Rishi, you want to know if the missing tail will affect the elephant's life? Well, Rishi, I've looked at some of the adults that have got half tails and tails missing here in the Mara Triangle, and it doesn't seem to have much effect on them at all. They continue on their way. I think, look at that little aggressive boy, hey? Head shake. Maybe there was a little bird in front of him and he was just showing him that he's boss. But pretty much the only thing that an elephant would use their tail is in showing a bit of emotion, because sometimes when they are stressed out, they may put it out almost deadly straight. And so it's in that emotion type use, and also as a bit of a fly swatter, as you see them sort of swinging backwards and forwards there, just keeping parasites away from their bottom. So I don't think that it has a major effect, although it will have an effect because it's missing, and normally they would have it swinging around like those adults are, but I don't think it's a real bad effect. I think very small. So I'm not too concerned about them not having tails. I'm just really interested to know in who is actually pulling them or grabbing them off, or if they're falling off on their own, but I'm still convinced that something is getting at them. Anyway, we'll have to continue on that mystery, and if anybody's got any angles or any theories, please send them through. So everybody, I need to start making my way up towards that escarpment. I'm going to leave these elephants now, and while I do that, I'm going to send you on over to Taylor on the other side of the river with a beautiful scene.
It is very, very beautiful on this side that we're staring at, because we've got impala, we have zebra, we've got eland, there are some topi and Thompson's gazelle in the vicinity too, except there's a massive storm that's just pulled in. The wind is gusting, it's freezing cold all of a sudden. It feels like the temperature has maybe dropped 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. It just amazes me how animals are just so used to this kind of thing. They stand there with their very thick coats, and I'm sure they get a bit chilly every now and then, and perhaps they duck down into sort of down into the gullies behind the trees to keep nice and warm. But this is not very pleasant at all. You can't even see that zebra's tail anymore, blown right around the other way of its body. That is stunning. The whole vehicle is rocking, hey Craig? Oh my goodness, we're going to take off. This is crazy. Have a look what it looks like on the other. We'll see how the animals on that side are coping with the wind. Look at the rain. Please don't get us. Please don't pour on us. I beg you. I fear that rain is coming towards us. Look at it. It's just a white wall. You could see mountains on the other side about 5 minutes ago, but that has changed drastically. And that's something that I'll take back with me. Is how dramatic the weather is out here and how quickly it changes. The light, however, is absolutely beautiful. That topi is looking gorgeous and golden this afternoon. You can see all the grass blowing around. Now you can really see how windy it is. Well, I'm sure you can hear it anyways. Now, I was chatting to Jamie. Jamie got back to me. She said she's not sure of the name of that pride of lions that we had either. She says it's the ones that roam around Talek. Now, Sinak, you're wondering where on earth did these animals go when there's a big storm? A lot of them are used to it, so they might just stand out in the open. They're very brave. Otherwise, if it does get a bit hectic, you will see them running towards the drainage lines, I suppose, where all the trees gather around. Sometimes, though, when, for example, where this topi is standing, it has got a long way to go before it can get to some shelter. So it might actually just sit down. Craig, look at the dust just picking up on the road. Oh no, it is coming straight towards us, isn't it? Please go past. Oh, there's lightning, there's all sorts of things. Look at that, Tommy's even struggling to run in the wind. It must be gusting at about 50-55 kilometers an hour at least, if not even more. My goodness, right. It seems as though the weather is a lot better down in South Africa, so perhaps I'll send you on down there. And Scott, I hope you're not melting in the heat.
Thankfully, it's not too hot today, and there's a nice cool breeze, and it is cooling off. I wish, Taylor, you could rather send us some of your Mara rains. We are desperate for rain over here, and I do empathize with her, though. Those Mara storms can be quite something. So, the major update I have from this mass of water ahead of us is that one of the local residents, Scuba Steve, appears to have relocated to another waterhole on the southwestern corner of our property called a Treehouse Dam. So that's the one update from here. And it also looks like the family of Egyptian geese are still doing well. When I arrived back from leave a couple of weeks ago, there were these 4 chicks, and there are still 4. I'm guessing there were more than that initially. Some of them may have not made it through the initial stages, but these 4 are doing well. And aren't they so cute? bobbing along after mom or dad. Hard to say who that is. The mother and the father do look very similar. And it's not just them here. You'll notice some terrapins behind them on the water's edge, just enjoying the sunshine. Interestingly, quite a few of the terrapins are quite scared of us, and as we arrive onto the scene, they all go plummeting into the water, which I find strange because we don't really ever do anything to the terrapins, so I'm not too sure why they see us as a threat. And ordinarily, anything this big would not usually cause any trouble with terrapins. It's not like they're confusing us with a terrapin eating elephant rather. So maybe they're just shy by nature. Not these two though. Very good. So my quest to film yellow-billed hornbills has been unproductive. We've managed to find one yellow-billed hornbill all alone, and it fluttered off. So still trying to find some of them. You may be wondering why exactly I'm trying to seek out two yellow-billed hornbills singing. Well, that's a surprise. You'll have to keep an eye out on some of our post-produced videos that will be coming out in the coming weeks and months. So that's what that's all about. It would also be wonderful to actually stop and just spend some time with them. I haven't spent much time with hornbills, and I was actually hoping that being tasked with this project would lead to possibly finding one of their nesting sites, which would be really cool. Haven't found any nests this season. It's been a bleak year for nesting, and I'm wondering if it's because we haven't had much rain, so it hasn't been a very productive time for a lot of the birds to do their nesting, and they may have decided just simply not to nest because there's simply not enough insects around, not nearly as many as there normally would be had we been getting the required rain for this time of the year. So possibly a combination of bad luck and also the fact that there's not as many birds nesting as ordinarily would be. Wonderful. So we're going to continue on, might start moseying our way back to Thandi. There may be a little gap there in the vehicle lineup, and while we do that, we are going to send you back to Noel, who is back with some of the Nkuhumas pride.
We have some sleepy lionesses, and I would just like to say thank you so much to the Mara. They have wrapped for the day. They'll be joining us again tomorrow morning at 5:30 our time. And I would like to welcome any new viewers who are joining us now. We are coming to you live from South Africa in the Sabi Sands on Djuma. It's myself and Scott Dyson out on drive, and I've got Seb on camera, and Senzo is over there with Scotty. And I would also like to remind everyone about our live TV shows that are going to be happening from the 4th of Feb until the 8th of Feb live in the United States on Nat Geo Wild. It's going to be starting at 10 o'clock Eastern. Our very first one is going to be for 2 hours on the 4th of Feb after that very big game that will be happening on that Sunday. And then again on the 5th and the 6th and the 7th and the 8th, also 10 o'clock Eastern time. And during that time, we are going to be playing the ever-exciting Safari Bingo. Now, for the rules of Safari Bingo, you need to go to natgeo.com/Safari Live to find out all the rules and regulations. And the winner of Safari Bingo is going to win a trip for two to Africa on an African safari. It's very, very, very exciting. So, it starts on the 4th of Feb at 10 p.m. Eastern. 10 p.m. Eastern in the United States, everybody. It's super exciting. All right, now our sleepy lionesses here have decided that they really don't care about our drone. We're giving our drone a rest for now, because what we want to happen in the next sort of half an hour, I would guesstimate, we're going to start seeing a lot more prey species making their way towards quarantine, which is the big open area that we're at. And the reason why they're going to be doing this is because it's an open area, and because the prey species cannot see at night. They need to use their sense of hearing and their sense of smell, and so they group together in an open area. It makes them feel more safe. So these lions are resting in the shade, which helps camouflage them, helps it basically, when you try and look into the shade, the depth perception's a bit off, and so they're lying there nicely. So any prey species that's coming from, especially from behind me, which is where the wind's blowing, is going to have no idea that these lionesses are here. And then also, as it gets cooler, it allows them to be more active. They've been very active for much of the day because they are so hungry. But for now, they're taking a very, very big cat nap. Then, once we start getting all these prey species around, hopefully the drone will be up in the sky and we'll be able to maybe get a hunt not only from our vehicle, but also from the drone, which will be super exciting. The only thing that could make this better is if a pack of wild dogs started running around near us. Seb and I were chatting before our last TV show in December about how cool it would be to get wild dogs on the drone. And what did Seb get on our live TV show last time? Wild dogs on the drone. It was amazing. And so hopefully that will happen again during our TV shows coming up. Or today would be fine. I haven't seen wild dogs in quite a while. All right, now there you can see the white bellies of the lionesses that we were talking about earlier. Now they'll use that when they're very, very hot, and they lie also with their legs open, and especially their back legs when they open them up when they're too warm. They're not doing it at the moment, but it's possible they'll do it in a little while. There's a main artery that's back there in the joint, and by opening their legs and also with those white bellies, it helps cool them down. But the temperature has dropped, not drastically, but enough that we're sitting in the shade, just like the lionesses, and that breeze coming through is making everything very peaceful. Not too many bird sounds around, but I'm just going to be quiet for a moment. We can listen to the breeze coming through. You guys hear that breeze? Oh, lovely. Gary, you are curious to know if when big cats poo, if they then cover it up like house cats do in a litter box. I've never seen them doing it. Usually they'll sort of get up and walk over and then poo and then go back somewhere near where they were lying down. Sometimes they're too lazy and they just sort of wee right where they are. Usually they have they move themselves a little bit, but sometimes if they're very full, they don't go too far to poo, and then usually they just do it and then carry on. They don't cover it back up. A lot of what they do when they're making those sort of cat marks with the scratching and the glands that come off their paws is they're actually doing a bit of scent marking. So they tend to stand and then they lower their haunches a little bit and then they scrape their back 2 feet and then they'll spray urine a bit. Mostly the males with the lions, but I've seen females doing a very similar thing. Not the spraying of the urine with the female lions, but a dribble of urine. Female leopards, female cheetah, they do the spraying of the urine as well as those markings. So cats have interpedial glands, so glands on the bottom of their paws, and they also have glands around their faces and sort of a smell around the face, so they tend to like rub their face against a bush, against a tree, and then they'll urinate a lot to help demark territory. I'm sorry if I'm squinting a little bit. The sun has reached a point where it's directly in my eyeball, so I'm trying to move around it. It's not. Yes, Seb's putting his arm in the way. Thanks, Seb. Ricardo, you're saying please don't rub their bellies while they sleep. It would be a bad idea. Ricardo, I agree with you. I don't think touching wild animals in any capacity is a good idea. Even if they are bred in captivity, I just think, yeah, no. Negative, X-nay on any of that. Wild animals should be in the wild, and just viewing them like this is perfectly fine. Ricardo, I agree with you. Now, let's say, Ricardo, for some reason I completely lost my sanity and my ethics, and I did decide to go over there. Just me stepping out of the vehicle would wake them up, and I would be breaking our social conduct code that we have with each other. So when I'm in the vehicle like this, I can come nice and close the way that I am now. When I'm on foot, their space bubble gets a lot larger, as does my space bubble. And so you don't want to, when I'm on foot, I don't want to get too close to do anything to them. They're possibly aggressive or move away. But then when I'm in the vehicle like this, I need to respect the fact that we've worked for a very long time to have them be comfortable like this. So if I'm braking, it's not the shape of the vehicle because they can see every single one of us, but I would be braking the idea behind me being in the vehicle, which encompasses me in this structure that makes them feel comfortable. When I'm on my own 2 feet, two things happen. One, I'm quite tall and imposing because I don't walk on all fours. Well, not normally. I walk on my normal legs. And then the other thing is that we have predator vision as humans. Our eyes are in front. They're not on the side of our head like prey. So not only are we imposing when we're standing on our 2 legs and we're tall, but we could also be seen as being aggressive with our predator vision and our 2 feet, so it would just be mean to them. So I'm definitely not going to scratch their bellies. Plus, lions smell, Ricardo. I've been very lucky to be part of some conservation teams who have relocated lions into areas where they naturally occur, and for some reason or other, depending on which area it was, they no longer occur, and lions stink real bad. They don't stink as bad as wild dogs, but they do definitely have a smell. There's a lion researcher in Namibia who does quite a lot of DNA work on those Namibian desert lions. And one of the things he does, I can't think of his name just now, I'm sure one of you will know his name, he smells their feet. And he says, so remember we talked about those glands? He says each lion smells different. And that has to do with the scent that's there in the gland. It's like us, each human smells different. I have a friend who has a very good sense of smell, and I'm not talking perfume and body spray, but when you take that out, we all have a certain scent, and he can smell you. So it's not like you have BO, he can just smell your human scent. So we also have that, but we cover everything up with other body sprays and perfumes and everything. All right, Scotty D is on the northeastern side of where I am, up in the corner, I believe. He's still around there at Biffleshoek Dam, or maybe he's moved, but he's driving around and having a look-see. So let's head on over to him, and see what he's up to.
Yes, Noel is correct. We are in the northeastern corner of Djuma, actually on our eastern boundary. And we don't have a spot to go and join Thandi just yet, so we're going to keep doing a few circles. And then see what we can do. Although I'm hearing some updates on the radio as we speak, and it sounds like a spot may have freed up, so that'll be good. Still no hornbills. I'm told a lot of you are concerned as to where Thandi's cub is. What is it that makes you concerned? It's not uncommon for a cub to be away from its mom, so no need to panic just yet. And I think if anything had have happened to the cub, Thandi wouldn't have just been lying around there relaxed. Some of you may remember when Kruger lost her cub, even the following day after that cub was chomped by a hyena, Kruger was still looking for her. She was still clearly quite stressed out, going back to the scene of the crime, calling. And by the look of how Thandi was a little bit earlier, it didn't look like she had just lost her cub. So, fear not. Any of you with children may be able to relate to Thandi. I don't have children, but I could imagine that there's a time where you don't actually want your kids to be bothering you for suckling and or playtime, and you just need some time to yourself. So, it's no different in the big cat world. Philip, an interesting question you ask. You would like to know if big cats react differently to people, humans, with beards. Never that I've heard of, and unless somebody had a beard so big it made him look like a lion, I don't foresee there being any issues. I guess it would be useful to ask Tristan, another one of the bearded guides, if he has ever heard of or had any personal experiences with the big cats. But ordinarily it doesn't matter what we look like, what color clothes we wear, as long as our behavior is fairly consistent, we can wear just about anything and do just about anything, and very often the big cats in areas like this will pay absolutely no attention to us. I wonder, maybe in the event of, lions charging you and getting close to you, whether a beard will have any kind of positive influences on stopping the lion, because you maybe look a little bit more manly. And a lot of the wild animals, especially the primates, do tend to pick on women over men, and that is judged entirely on looks. So I wonder. Very good. Well, somebody who may be able to shed some light on the topic of big cats and beards is Noelle. You know, even though she doesn't have one, she may know something about it. Off you go. Let's see what she has to say.
Scott, I'm so glad to hear that you don't think I have a beard. Thank you, thank you very much. Now, here's my thoughts on big cats and beards. A beard for a big cat would be, for lions, they have manes, right? So lions got a big mane. And the bigger and darker and more beautiful the mane is, whether it's a black tinge or a ginger tinge or a blonde tinge, that's what the females go for. Now, from a female human perspective, a nice beard is a good thing for myself and most of the females that I know. So I do think that there's an attraction there. So I wonder if possibly that the lions and leopards see someone like Tristan and Scott and are like, that's a nice looking mane. And maybe that's why they like them so much. You never know. Although I do know that Tristan's been having a little bit of problems with some of our leopards every now and then because maybe his testosterone's too big because of his big manly beard. I wonder how Chuck Norris would do with lions and leopards out here, because he is Chuck Norris. And I'm trying to think if there's a Chuck Norris joke with lions. I can't think of one just now. If anyone knows a Chuck Norris joke with lions or leopards and something to do with his beard, please, please, please send that through. I will repeat that one on camera. Chuck Norris jokes make me laugh like a little 12-year-old boy. All right, so our lions have sort of started to move around and then not. Okay, GP 500 Bill, you're curious if I've ever been chased by a lion. So Bill, that's a negative because I've never run from a lion. You never, ever, 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 ever run. If you run, you are exposing your back part, you look like food, and that's it. I have been revved quite aggressively by a lion. I've had some extremely close encounters. One that resulted in a rather large bruise on one of my thighs because of a tail. Lions have a tendency to turn at sort of like a meter and a half. So no, I've never been chased. I have been stalked by young lions at a drink stop once. And I have been camping in Botswana. Oh my goodness. I had such a heart attack. I was camping in Botswana and we were in a little pup tent. So a little pup tent's like a small tent that you can just barely fit in. It's that like nylon material. And I was sleeping and we were lying there and my partner at the time was snoring away and I could hear lions and I could hear them and I could hear them and then it's kind of like, okay, I'm awake. There's something around the tent and then it's the lions sort of around and then all of a sudden, because the way that the dome tent obviously looks, it looks like a large solid structure because they can't see on the inside. There was no lights on the inside. And it's also warm and it was very cold where we were. This lion lies on the side of the tent and it's just taunt enough that it can kind of lie like this. But now because it's so small, my arm is obviously right here. So this lion's basically touching my arm. So I'm laying there trying not to move and I'm edging my partner at the time going, wake up, and like trying to wake him up. And then finally he's not waking up, he's snoring away. So I took my finger and I poked it because I didn't know what else to do. And this lion got such a fright, it jumped and then obviously ran off. And as the lion jumped and ran off, my partner woke up and was like, what's going on? It's like, there was a lion like resting on the side of the tent. He's like, well, did you deal with it? I was like, well, of course I dealt with it. He's like, all right, and then turned around and went back to sleep. I was like, oh my goodness. So I think that's the closest non-conservation encounter that I've had other than that tail whacking scenario. There was a really great video that came out from the Kalahari Transfrontier Park after they'd had a little bit of rain. Someone was inside a larger pup tent, the ones that have the little windows that come down, and then it's not mesh, but it's that clear like plastic, kind of like what you get on a roll down canvas windows, and there was water dripping off of there and a young lioness came up and was licking the water droplets off. So it does happen from time to time, those close encounters, but usually you don't want, especially when you're on foot, you don't want the animals that you're viewing to see you because you never really, you can kind of tell what their reaction is, but not always. Now Scott's found his hornbills, so I think let's go on over to him and see what he wants to show you regarding those hornbills.
Well, quite an interesting scene actually. We've been seeking out yellow-billed hornbills in specific, and we came onto the scene and found a trifecta of hornbills. The southern grey hornbill, the red-billed, and the yellow-billed hornbill. And I'm guessing they must all know that there's some kind of caterpillars or bugs on these silver cluster leaves, because it appears like there's some kind of a feeding frenzy going on over here. Not easy views though, lots of bushes in the way, making Senzo's life a little bit tricky. But still no joy getting the yellow-billed, which we are hoping for, singing. That is our goal. And they do quite an elaborate display when they call. It's a very comical and entertaining thing to actually watch. Same as the red-billed actually, which is the individual you can see over there. And you can see they're kind of just hopping around, and I love the way they kind of crane their heads from side to side looking for more snacks. But there must be, like I say, some kind of a caterpillar that's feeding on these silver cluster leaves. Sens, I wonder if you can, the tree to, yeah, over there, if you zoom into some of those leaves on the right, that right hand tree of this one over there, we'll actually see, you can see there's quite a lot of leaf or damage to the leaves. Something's been nibbling on them. If you zoom right into those leaves, Sens, we'll be able to see quite clearly. There we go. Now you can see there's lots of holes. So some kind of a caterpillar is chomping on them, and in return the hornbills are chomping on the caterpillars. So thankfully this little cluster leaf has got some form of its own armed response in the form of these hornbills. Very cool. I don't want to hop off and try and find out exactly what they are feeding on, because that'll obviously chase the birds away from their buffet, which we don't want to do. Okie dokes. Well, there's some good news. That sounds like there has been a spot that's freed up in the sighting of Thandi, a female leopard, not too far from here. So that is where we are going to head. Holly, you'd like to know if the drought will have an impact on hornbills nesting and mating? Yes, 100%. Not just the hornbills, but all of the animals of this area, especially the herbivores. When the going is good, you tend to find a lot of the animals will reproduce sometimes 2 or 3 times in a season. It obviously does depend on the animal. And in times of drought, or in times of hardness, there'll be a lot less reproduction and mating. It's applicable to elephants a lot, and definitely a lot of the birds, which can have 2 or 3 or 4 clutches in a productive season. But when the going's tough, they need to, and they know full well that they need to look after themselves rather than trying to start a family. And I guess, you know, us as humans are no different. If you've got no cash, and you are looking for a job and you don't have a house, it's probably not the ideal time to start a family. And I guess that's how we can kind of equate droughts or hard times in nature to the equivalent hard times that we as humans. I've just seen a hornbill flying with an insect in its mouth, which probably means it's going to its nest. It's where did it go? It disappeared out of view. Huh. Did you see it? Huh. That marula there, the smaller one. Now, at this time of the year when birds are supposed to be nesting, if you ever see them flying with something in their beak, they could well be going to a nest site. Now, Senzo did see it land, I didn't. So, but it may have just disappeared off. What a pity. Because that would have been really useful to know where it was nesting. I can hear a few more hornbills taunting us, calling off in the distance somewhere over there. And I guess quite often in life, if you look too hard for something, it evades you, and when you're not looking for it, it's always right there in front of you, and I think this is a good example thereof. Definitely the first time I've been so intent on finding a pair of yellow-billed hornbills in my guiding career, and quite enjoying the quest actually. Very good. I mustn't lose too much focus though, because we do have a leopardess not too far from us. So we're going to head over there, and while we do that, we're going to send you back to Noel.
Well, Scotty D, I hope when you get to Thandi, she's a lot more active than our lionesses. It really is a lot cooler, and I'm very disappointed in their lack of movement, but I'm going to be patient, and we're going to wait and see. All right, Mrs. Grumpy, you you've given me a Chuck Norris joke. You're saying that a lion once put its head in the mouth of Chuck Norris. Oh, I love it. I love it. My favorite Chuck Norris joke is, Chuck Norris's tears could cure cancer, but Chuck Norris doesn't cry. That's my favorite one. But I like this lion one very much. Alright, Mrs. Grumpy, you win. You win for the day. I think I'm going to have more giggle fits than I did this morning picturing Ralph as Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. And by the way, thank you guys for those gifts that you sent. They were hysterical. Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, I'm composing myself. Well, this is serious business, Safari. We can't laugh here. It's my non-laughing face. All right, Gemma, this is a serious question, says Kirst. No giggling. Gemma, do lions see in color or black and white? So, Gemma, this is actually an interesting question. So, I'd always been told, taught, and read lions see in black and white and shades of gray in different bar shapes. And then I was chatting with a few other people about this, and one of the people I was talking about is a friend of mine that's colorblind with red and green, and he sees in, he can sort of see purple and blue, but he sees in sort of darker shades and khakis and brown. And so he personally thinks that lions can see like that. And then I was chatting with James as well, and James was saying something similar. So it's interesting for me, because you can do research on many things that we talk about here, and you're always going to find someone that's going to disagree, and you're always going to find something that says something completely different. I mean, take climate change, for instance. You can find a paper on anyone's idea on climate change and scientific stuff to back it up. So I'm thinking like the black and white and shades of gray mixed in with some of those darker brown colors. That's how I would imagine a lion sees. But they don't see color the way that people who are not colorblind see color, if that helps. There, now my giggles are gone. They're gonna come back just now. I'm picturing Chuck Norris's head now with a lion in his mouth. Maybe Chuck Norris will watch Safari Live and he'll come up with his own Chuck Norris jokes. I would like that. I would be amused. Maybe there'll be a Chuck Norris joke with elephants. I don't know how I got stuck on this Chuck Norris thing. Now, I'm also curious to know where our third lioness was. She was here when we started out on Game Drive, and I can't see her. So she's either lying farther back in the middle of quarantine, or she's just in the bushes a little bit farther off, and my eyesight's completely gone as I get older, and I don't know. But it is time for the greeting to happen. When they wake up, they yawn, they stretch, they groom, they touch each other, and they reaffirming of the reaffirmation. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you for my grammar kicking in. Reaffirmation of the social bond. It's basically like a big hug and a kiss saying, good morning, good afternoon, I love you. And then they'll do that sequence on and off for a little while. Remember, they're like diesel engines. It takes a little while for them to warm up, and then they'll move off. Now, those Impala and Nyala that we saw earlier really were not very far from here. And I'm actually surprised that we're not seeing them yet. And I have not seen our resident wildebeest yet either. So these lions better get moving if they want a snack. Although that being said, even though it's cooler for us, it's probably best if they maybe wait till it's a titch darker, because then they can see perfectly well, but everything they're hunting cannot, as we spoke about earlier. All right, please send more Chuck Norris jokes. I'm sorry, that was that was just too good. Okay, now, ooh, we've got another one. I'm waiting, Kirst, I'm waiting with bated breath. grumpier on its high now, but 26 years saying that Chuck Norris was once bitten by a snake, and after 5 or 6 days of agonizing pain, the snake died. Oh, I love it. These are too good. Keep them going. This is way too good. We can have a whole Chuck Norris themed afternoon while we sit here with our energy conserving lions, our very, very lazy lions. Oh, I love it. The snake died. Oh. I wonder where Amber Eyes is. I'm pretty sure she's still mating with that male. We couldn't find them this morning. We looked, there was tracks up by Biffleshoek Dam. What? You guys have never heard of Chuck Norris? Walker, Texas Ranger. Oh, come on. Chuck Norris is a bad Mama Jama. Chuck Norris is amazing. Walker, Texas Ranger, when I was a kid, was like the show. We weren't really allowed to watch TV. But if we were allowed to watch TV, it was usually for 20 minutes or half an hour, and it had to be a weekend. And it was either PBS, and we were watching documentaries, you know, where the cheetahs are running across the savannah and eating the Thompson's gazelle, or Chuck Norris or MacGyver. MacGyver was also a bad Mama Jama. But yeah, Chuck Norris, Walker, Texas Ranger. And then he's been in all of those kung fu movies. And then the Chuck Norris jokes came out. But my favorite thing is that you can YouTube Chuck Norris reading his own Chuck Norris jokes. I love it. And then when I moved to South Africa, actually the guy that trained me, who's a very good friend of Steph's, also loves Chuck Norris jokes. And when I moved here, yes, this was probably about 12 years ago, or just under 12 years after I was living in Tanzania. People down here also really love Chuck Norris, and the Chuck Norris jokes were coming out. I used to remember a whole bunch of them. Some of them are very inappropriate, and I can't do on camera for you. Of course, those are the ones that I remember. Ooh, there's another one coming through. I like it. Okay, Kirst, I'm ready. Straight face. Alexa, Curious One, you win. So Curious One, you asked Alexa. I'm assuming Alexa's like Siri. You asked Alexa for a Chuck Norris joke, and Alexa told you that there's no such thing as evolution. There's only animals that Chuck Norris allowed to live. I can't, you guys. This is too good. Curious One. I'm sorry. I think you win. That one's really good. And the fact that you asked Alexa. Oh, this is wonderful. Okay, so before I laugh so hard, I really can't talk anymore. I think let's go back to Scotty D's.
And happy to hear that she's been telling you guys some jokes, and I'm sure some of you possibly sharing some of your own Chuck Norris jokes with her. I misinterpreted what was going on the radio, and there isn't an opening yet with Thandi, so we're gonna continue on with our quest for the yellow-billed hornbills while we wait for a slot. And actually haven't driven this road for a long time, but a happy memory of seeing a snake in this tree many years ago, and I can't remember what snake it was. It was either a vine snake or a boom slung slithering around this tree. We saw it quite luckily in that kind of main big fork there that ends in a dead stump, so it was in and around the bark initially. And like I said, a happy memory of this tree. We don't see snakes very often, which is a pity. They're definitely here, but they tend to hide from us. Another animal that doesn't tend to hide from us so much, but isn't as numerous as its compadres, is the southern grey hornbill. And James, you would like to know why is it that we don't see that many of them, and it's simply because, like I say, they are not as numerous as their cousins, the red-billed and the yellow-billed. I did see one a little bit earlier. There was one in the cluster leaf buffet, where we had a trifecta of hornbills, the 3 main hornbills that we do see here. I'd probably say the red-billed are the most common, then the yellow-billed, then the grey, but the grey definitely are far less numerous here. Interestingly, that's the one hornbill you see more in the Mara than any others. It's the only hornbill that I think I've actually seen in the Mara is the grey hornbill. Okay, now I have just heard a call over the radio saying that a spot is freed up, so we can turn around and head towards Thandi, which is going to be magical because it's a great time of the evening to be heading there. The sun's about to drop below a big cloud that it's stuck behind at the moment, and when it does, it is going to bathe Thandi and hopefully her cub in a beautiful golden hue. When I did sneak back into that sighting, because I assumed that there was only one vehicle there, I did notice that the vehicles had repositioned a little bit. Thanks, Orbs, I copied that. And while we head off to our exciting prospects, it sounds like Noel has got some very exciting prospects, and so do those lions.
Guys, look what these lions are doing. There's impala that are close by that have not seen the lions. We've got the drone up in the air so we can try and get a bird's eye view of everything that's going on. But the wind is perfect. These impala know nothing. The lions are standing very, very, very still. The wind has just switched a little bit, and because the wind switched a little bit, the impala are now trying to figure out what's going on. Because they can't see them, they can just smell them from time to time. So I think our drone might have a good view in just a minute or two. We'll have to wait and see. But these impalas really don't know what's potting. And it's the lioness with the wound that's got her there. Okay, so you see those impala? The lions are probably 40 meters from them, so about 40 yards, just in the shade. There we go. No, that's okay. There we go, just the other way. So there, stop there. You can see the lions. You can see our car, and then in front are the lions, and then the impala are there. They can't really figure out what's going on. So it's not just that group of impala, but there's also another group of impala that's a little bit farther down the road. And because the wind is swirling and bringing the scent of the impala around a little bit, the impala, some of them, not these ones here in front, but some of them are alarm calling, but they're not quite sure what they're alarm calling about. This is very cool. And then there's a Nyala, a big Nyala bull that's there. So I'll be interested to see, turn your bum away from a predator. That's what the predator's going to go for. So they're slowly going away, and we'll see. Now, Seb and I were having a little debate about whether or not lions would go from impala. I say yes, especially when they're this hungry. Carrie, you're saying this is the best drone shot yet? Yeah, I think this is a very cool drone shot. Oh, they're up. The lionesses are moving. You can see them moving. There's the impala moving. There's the one lioness is up. She's sitting up. She's watching the impala. The impala are coming around behind us. They're moving around. Okay, they have figured out that something is up because of the wind, but there's still some more that are here, including that big Nyala bull. And you can see the one that's lying down, and then the other one is sitting up, and they're watching. Now there's more Nyala that are, impala that are to where the one, to our left, to our sort of north and east. And no one's figured out that these lions are here. They just think that something is going on because of the swirling wind. There's our tent that we do shows from sometime. There you can see the tent on the drone and a little bit of the DRC, so you can see that we're quite close to home. There we go. Our lions aren't quite sure which impala to look at or which way to move. They're both turning their heads and looking in every direction and trying to tell if they should go this way or that way. There's where Kirst is sitting inside the DRC. I'm glad no one's running around in the nude. That would be embarrassing. Where's Steph? Oh guys, look, Steph's home. Steph, we've got lions. All right, now I think, Seb, if we can try and maybe get these impala that are on our left-hand side. There we go. So if we come back towards our car. Paula's saying, sorry, Kirst, I just missed you there. Go again. Oh, Paula, you're saying you love seeing the camp? I also love seeing the camp. So, Seb, if you come, move the screen down. Nope, the other way. There, no, sorry. You were right. You were right, Seb. Sorry, I'm dyslexic, remember? There's the other impala in the road.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
There they are.
Them,
yeah, see them there? They also can't figure out what's potting. But there's going to be a lot of confusion that's created here. There we go. There's also that Nyala bull that was around, and I don't think that he's moved too far off. I think he's probably hiding in the bushes. And I think the lions are just waiting and biding their time. There we go. This is really, really, really cool. And I'm just checking in front of us here. There's possibly some more in the bushes. The wind's now swirling again and pushing this lion scent everywhere. Some of the impala are alarm calling, some are feeding. The lions are now just having a look around. I think they're debating what they want to do and how they want to do it. But again, no one's seen the lions. It's just the smell that's around. And I have a feeling that Nyala bull that walked past earlier is possibly going to be the best bet. I also think they're going to wait for it to get just a little bit darker. What an amazing sequence we just had now. Now Scott's still with Thandi. So I think, sorry, I keep looking at the screen from the drone because it's just so cool. Let's head back to him and then we'll see what happens here and we'll let you know the soonest we get any action.
Yes, we've just got onto the scene of Thandi and it looks like our timing couldn't have been more perfect. You can see she's calling the cub. Ow! Very soft calls, and hopefully it's going to come running out from wherever it was hidden. And I think thereafter, or any time in the next few minutes, she could well ascend the marula tree where she has 2 kills stashed, a waterbuck, a baby waterbuck, and a duiker. She's quite close to this tree, and that is where the kills are. Now, where is this little cub going to come bundling out of? What I found interesting is that the other day when we followed her back to a spot where she had stashed the cub, it did take the cub quite a while to respond to her calls. So don't be alarmed that the cub isn't coming out just yet, because sometimes it takes the cub a little bit of time. Who knows, maybe it's just sleeping and a little bit lazy, not obeying mom's calls, or maybe it's quite far away and just slowly and cautiously making its way here. Francis, you've got your money on the cub being up a tree somewhere. Could well be. When Thandi left this area this morning to go and seek out some lions that she had a feeling were in the area, when Tristan got back there was no longer any sign of the little cub, so who knows where it is hiding. Her calls do seem to be getting a little bit louder. Where could your little cub be? Now it is also quite windy, so depending on where the cub is, if it is far away, possibly the wind is blowing her calls in the wrong direction, or also just getting muffled with all the ambient noise from the leaves and grasses rustling in the wind. Oh, she's looking up the tree. Maybe we're going to get lucky and see her ascend, or maybe she's going to head off in search of where this cub could be. I'm not sure if she's trying to cover the scent that she just smelt. She may have been feeding on the carcass there before and now wanting to cover that scent. Dancers with Dirt, you'd like to know if the cub would miss the mom's calls if it was sleeping. It's a good question. I mean, I guess it depends, and you'll probably find that just like us as humans, some leopards are deeper sleeper than others. But I think that is a possibility. I'm guessing though that most wild animals do always kind of sleep with one eye open, and it would kind of be programmed and tuned into mom's calls, so that even if it was sleeping, it would probably wake up if it did hear them. That would be my guess. I don't think it would sleep through the calls, but who knows? What's going on, Thandi? So it looked like she was actually just scraping that dirt away to go to the toilet, interestingly, because it looked like she had a piddle right where she was scraping away that earth. And it looks like she is going to ascend. She usually, well, at least one time that I've seen her ascend, it was from the kind of left-hand side of the tree. It'll be interesting to see if she uses the same route or a different route. That's why I've kind of positioned ourselves where we are. If she goes up, I'm hoping either the left or the right is her probable route up, because there is a big fork that would prevent her going up on this side or on the opposite side of the tree to us. What's going on, Thandi? Where's your little bubba? Interesting. So it looks like she's going to continue to try and seek out this little cub. You would kind of think that you would know where it was, but I mean, on one occasion not so long ago, the cub moved off quite a big distance away from where Mom was, and for no apparent reason, Mom just kind of went to sleep at the base of the tree, and the cub went off maybe 40 or 50 meters was the last visual we had of it. So who knows, maybe this young little rebellious cub has decided to go on a little bit of a walkabout again. I'm just going to stay put where we are for now rather than repositioning. Margaret, you'd like to know how long will she call before giving up? I don't think she will actually give up, and like I said a little bit earlier, I'm not sure if you were watching then, we did have a scenario a couple of years ago where this leopard's mother actually lost one of her cubs to hyena, and the next day she went into that same area knowing full well what happened. I mean, she was there when it happened. She was on the move with the cub, and this hyena came in and scoffed it. And even though she kind of knew that, she kept going back into that area trying to seek out her cub. So they can spend a lot of time searching for them if that is the case. And I think right now she is going to want to try and get to the bottom of where this cub could be. Okay, good stuff. Well, we're going to get into another spot to try and see what happens here next, and send you back to Noelle and her lions in the meantime.
Alright, they have decided to not go for these impalas quite yet. There's a bit of yawning action that's happening. And as predicted, our impalas have... Oh, and she's going to lie down again. Our impalas have moved into the middle of quarantine. So I'm thinking that they're probably just going to wait for it to get a little bit darker. That's what I'm thinking. I think that they didn't get the opportunity they were hoping for. But that doesn't mean that they're still not going to hunt. And I still have not seen that Nyala bull re-emerge. So the last week, I think it was, we had these lionesses, these same lionesses, trying to hunt a Nyala bull not far away from us. It's a good size for them. So we will have to wait and see if possibly they do it again. And there's more than likely some more antelope species that are going to pop up this way, because it's not just the impala that like the middle of quarantine, it's the Nyala, it's the wildebeest, and it's also the zebra. Now, Seb flew the drone over quarantine to have a look to see if anything had come up yet. As of yet, they haven't, but it should be happening soon. So we're definitely keeping eyes out here where we are, and also eyes out with the drone itself. Now, the lioness just here is lying down a little bit. The one behind her still has her head up. As we know, they sometimes take turns like this. And I think that if anyone starts to move, it's probably going to be the lioness in the back. She's yawned a little bit more than the one in the front, and seems to be a little bit more aware. It's hard for them, though, because this wind keeps swirling and keeps moving around the way that it is. It's difficult for them to start moving now when it's still light outside. Here we are. There's lionesses. We have some guys that are busy coming home. They're just going to go around us. So we're actually on the main road for the lodge, lodge to get to and from the gates. And so, unfortunately, we've got a little bit of activity that's happening now, but that's all right. The lions are not perturbed. I'm not perturbed. The impala aren't perturbed. That's a really beautiful view there. It's gorgeous. Being able to use the drones on the drive is, for me, is really adding in a nice mixture for just views on safari. I don't know how all of you are feeling. I'm really digging today. All right, now Thandi's still calling for her cubbo, so I think let's head back to her, and we'll keep doing what we're doing and keeping our eyes peeled.
Well, interestingly, I just asked Aubrey, who's been with Thandi close on the whole afternoon, one of the other guides, and he says that she has been calling for about 25 minutes or so with no joy. Initially she headed south away from where the kill was, and interestingly that was the same area where I saw the cub disappear to a couple of days ago, and she probably knows maybe that cub liked hanging out in that direction. But her calls there had no joy, so now she's headed further to the west, trying her luck here. And I guess only time will tell what exactly is going on here. I'm confident that this cub has just moved off into an area where Mom didn't exactly know where, while she was out snooping around some lions, being a very good mother, making sure she knew what threats were in the area. And like I said, by the time Tristan followed Thandi back after her little kind of perimeter check, he noticed that the cub was no longer around. So hard to be certain what has happened. I know when Tristan did leave Thandi and the cub, as Thandi did go on her kind of perimeter search, that there was still a hyena in the area. So had the cub fallen out the tree or made a wrong move, there is a chance that a hyena may have scoffed it, but I'm hoping that's not the case. And I definitely think it is far too soon to be jumping to those kinds of conclusions. I don't think it's worth the emotional roller coaster of thinking that that is the reality just yet. But of course there is a chance that that has happened. I think we should get some nice views of her again shortly. Just move a few more meters and she should pop out. Also want to just try and rev the vehicle as softly as possible so that our noise doesn't interfere with her search for the cub. Now the cloud that I was talking about earlier, that I was hoping the sun was going to drop down below, seems to be growing out to the west, but the sun will get below it at some point. There you can see, beautiful. Okay, where has she gone? Okay, here she is. She's just taking a breather here, lying down under a small tree. She's looking up into this tree. She just looked up into it. So, is the cub stuck up there? Now the cub, even though it can climb, it is still learning how to climb. So going up often is easy, but coming down can be a little bit more tricky for it. So that's also something to factor into the equation. If the cub is stuck up a tree, especially now that the wind is blowing, it may be just taking its time coming down. CJ, you would like to know if the cub would kind of head to a den site to hide away from any threats. I don't think so. No, you know, the closest kind of den that Thandi stashed at was probably about half a mile from where we are here, and I think that's just simply far too far for a cub to venture on its own. And at this age, ordinarily what does happen in and around kills is that the cubs will just find a hiding place that kind of either is the only option they have when a threat arrives, or just an area where they have learnt to enjoy having spent a little bit of time in and around this kill now. The cub has definitely had lots of time around this area, this general area, to explore and get familiar with over the last 36 hours or so. Ricardo, you suggest that you think she'd be able to smell her cub. If this was a new area that the kind of leopard had just moved into and left the cub and then come back, yes, definitely. But the fact that they've already spent quite a lot of time in this area means there'll be multiple scent trails of the cub backwards and forwards, and that will be confusing for her. So I think that is probably the reason why she's not able to track it down via scent. And I mean, even though you guys probably can't hear those calls very clearly, I can hear the call very clearly from where we're positioned, and we're about, I would say, 35 yards away from her at the moment, and their hearing is so much better than ours. So that cub in theory should be able to hear, I'm guessing, these calls from at least 100 yards away. Well, finally the sun is dropping below that bank of clouds, and we are going to get spoilt with some beautiful golden afternoon light now. It will be the perfect time for the cub to come bounding out of the thickets to reunite with Mom. Joy, you suggest that the cub will probably be hungry by now. Yes, I guess it would be. It's been well fed though over the last few days. I don't think any of us have seen it actually chewing on any of the carcasses here just yet. It's not to say that it hasn't though, but it definitely would have been getting a lot of mom's nutritious milk. If she's well fed, of course, she will be producing as much milk as she would ever, because she has got a smorgasbord of options, being a waterbuck and a diker, but certainly she's going to be producing quite a lot of milk at the moment, so she's in as good a condition as possible. Whew. Well, it's times like these that I'm sure a lot of your hearts are in your throats, hoping to find out what has happened here. And you'll be glad to know that both Noel and myself intend on extending this evening's safari. Myself, obviously, to try and work out what's gone on here, and Noel because she's got good prospects with some hungry lions. So, if you did have plans to go in the next few minutes, try and change them, because the safari will continue. Quite interesting to see how composed she is. You know, she definitely doesn't look panicked at the moment. She's just kind of going through the motions as she tries to work out where her cub could be. I just want to reposition a little bit because I think Aubrey's also trying to get his guests into a good spot. He's got some photographers on board, and I think where we were positioned, we were not allowing him to get to exactly where he wanted. So, while we get into a new position, we are going to send you back to Noel and those lions, and I'm sure she'll give you an update on the prospects for what could happen a little bit later on with them.
So the prospects for later on, I'm hoping for a hunt. These lionesses do need to eat, so I'm hoping that something happens, especially something on camera. Now we've got a really beautiful sunset that's happening behind us, so Seb's just going to get the drone airborne again, and we're going to see what we can do for a view for you all of that gorgeous sunset. Oh, look at that. Yes. All right, shall we do our moment of silence with our beautiful landscape view? Yeah, the drone's a little bit louder than we like, unfortunately. But it was still a nice little moment we had there. And I mean, this view is absolutely breathtaking. Look at that. It's like standing on a really tall mountain watching the sun go down. Our lions are more and more awake. And now we're just trying to see if anything else is coming around. We'll have a look with the drone. It is pretty, hey everyone. So, what I find really interesting about this, with this drone, is that not only can you turn it around, but also the camera swivels to give different views. Tony, you're curious to know what time it is? Tony, it is, stand by one. It is just about 6:30 in the PM, so 18:30 roughly here by us. So Tony, if you're contacting us from the northern hemisphere, possibly in the States, I think you're 7 or 8 or 9 hours behind us. I think the UK is an hour plus or minus from us at the moment. Seb, can we get the moon at all, or is that not going to work?
No, won't work. It's too
No.
much. It's above the drone. I can't film above the drone.
All right, Thandi's still calling for her cub, so I think let's head back to her. And we'll keep an eye on our lions.
She certainly is still looking for a cub, and sadly her head is pricked up, not because she's seen the cub, but because she's seen something else. A hyena. Now, I'm not sure if this is the same hyena that was lurking here this morning. It's just spotted her. That's when it stopped in its tracks there, and now it's changed direction. I'm not sure if any of you guys recognize that hyena, and it does look like she is actually interested in following this hyena as it moves. So I think we should get into another spot, because I'm guessing she is going to pursue this hyena. So let me actually just stop here. We could get a nice two shots of her looking at the hyena slinking off there. So the hyena, her being here, or at least the leopard, it knows full well that there is some food up ahead. So I'm guessing this hyena has actually been here before. Let's keep moving now. First lady, you'd like to know if the drone could help find the cub? No. No ways. That cub is tiny, and if that drone got anywhere near it, I'm sure it would hide, and because it is so small, it would be able to hide from it with relative ease. And that, coupled with the camera that's on the drone, I don't think so. Had we have a thermal imaging camera on the drone, then yes, maybe we could see a tiny little blob somewhere hidden in a bush, and then that could maybe lead us to it. But the hyena was running off wildly there. I'm not too sure if it was an inter-hyena dispute, but I just saw a hyena racing off, or possibly Thandi may have chased it. Not too sure. Where is Thandi? I just saw the hyena running from left to right. I think she did chase the hyena, because she's just getting back towards the base of the kill. So I'm guessing she did give it a little bit of a rev there. Megan, you'd like to know if a hyena would kind of respond to the contact calls of a leopard to try and find the cub? Possibly. I mean, that call and noise would obviously alert the hyena to something being up, and that would maybe bring the hyena into the area, but I don't think it's necessarily going to then start actively seeking out the cub. Hard to be certain though. Looks like, oh, she's just gone up the tree, so we missed that. And interestingly, she did take the same route that I saw her take up. She obviously likes approaching from that other side. I'm just going to keep moving and get into another good spot, because I'm guessing she's going to go further up the tree. I also want to make some space for Aubrey and his guests, the photographers. I'm sure we'll love that spot that we've just given them. And here we've got ourselves equally into another good spot. Here she comes straight towards us. Looks like she wants to start with a duiker snack. This is the duiker carcass that she's headed straight towards. She avoided the waterbuck, which was kind of below her, further behind her. Okay, and now she's got comfortable, so let's reposition again. Okay, this is quite a good spot, I think. Where is your little baby, Thandi? What is going on? I'm quite surprised you gave that hyena such a thorough chasing. and I'm impressed by her tenacity in order to be able to do that, because it's quite a thing for a single leopardess to take on even just one hyena, and we saw that hyena fleeing for its life. Ordinarily, if there wasn't a cub around, I doubt she would have done that. She knows full well that her kills are safe up in the tree, but I think it is the fact that her cub is missing that she kind of took out her frustrations on that hyena, and also just made sure it wasn't anywhere near where I guess she thinks this cub could pop out. Lots of flies buzzing around the carcass. They must be getting fairly pungent because they've been sitting out for 2 full days now in some quite hot conditions. What has she heard? Stevie, you suggesting that you can never get too attached to wild animals because you simply never know what nature is going to do. And yes, that is definitely the case. It's not uncommon for young leopards to not make it through. If anything, it's the other way around. It's uncommon for them to actually make it to adulthood. So I guess the tricky thing is, Stevie, how do you not become attached to these characters that we do spend so much time with, especially the cute, fluffy little ones? I've certainly been loving spending time with leopard cubs again. It's been many a moon since I've been lucky enough to spend so much time with a young little leopard, and I certainly do hope that it's okay. I'm feeling confident that it is. I'm not too worried just yet. If we came here tomorrow morning and there was no sign of a cub, then I would begin to worry. But even then, we can't just assume. Oh, nice big jump. I think she prefers this branch that she's on here. I've seen her spending most of her time lounging on that one. What's also interesting is that her calls have subsided greatly until now. She's just started calling again, so hopefully these calls will get this cub coming in the right direction. And while we wait for that hopefully joyous occasion to unfold, we're going to send you back to Noel and the lions for a quick update.
Well, they've started to move, which is absolutely fantastic. One's still lying down, the other one's going to pop up right there on the road. There we are. And she's looking towards where those impala went. Now, it started to get a little bit more dark. She's looking to where the impala went, but then she's actually going in a very different direction. So I, again, think maybe impala too small of a meal, although slightly surprised because it's impala and they're hungry. Now, as she moves, the other female will also move, and then the third female should pop up wherever she may be. This is very, very, very cool. And as this second female pops up, we're then not only going to be following them with the drone, but we're also going to follow them with the vehicle. And hopefully, if they keep walking straight down this road, they're going to end up in the open areas that are closer to sandy patch, and there might be some wildebeest or zebra there, and so we will possibly see that hunt we've been looking for. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a close eye on them, just with their body movements and their behavior, just to see if they spot anything before us. So we're going to play follow the leader down the road. And if the drone might also see something before either the lionesses or we see it. You never know. I have to say, this is a first. I've never followed lions the way that we're doing now and having a drone present. I've had a lot of guests ask, why don't we use drones to find the wildlife in general? Now, two things. One is you guys can hear the drone from time to time. So from a wilderness experience for the humans on board, it's somewhat distracting. As you can see, for the lions themselves, it's not distracting at all. They're blissfully ignoring everything. And then the other thing is that the wildlife needs to be able to move where they want to move, and sometimes that involves us not being able to find them, and that's okay. And then also, earlier we were trying to look for the rest of the Nkuhumas and couldn't find them with the drone, so it's not always 100% this drone movement. Now, what I'm actually going to allow happen is I'm going to let the drone follow them if they move into the block, and I'm going to take the road around. That actually makes my life a little bit easier. They're looking for that other lioness. They're doing a little bit of the ooh. And I believe everyone's saying, so cool. It is so cool. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna wave to everybody. Everybody, I hope you're waving back. I hope that was an automatic thing. They're calling for this other lioness, and she's not answering at the moment, but she could still be sleeping. That's a great view. They're looking around, and it's starting to get into that nice twilight time where their eyesight, look, their eyes are always good, but where their eyesight kicks in nicely. I'm just going to move us around a little bit. Sheila, good question. You want to know if we have sensors around our camp? No, Sheila, we don't. There's a little bit of a fence, but we never lock the gate. Fences. Fences. Sorry, Sheila. Yes, we do have some fences, but we never really lock the gate. And look, in general, we're so loud and noisy that the only thing that wants to come into camp and join us is something like a hyena. I am going to now just move around the road. We're going to let the drone follow those lionesses. And I'm not going to boonoo bash after them because I've got two screens now to be able to see where they move and how they move. It's interesting. Every now and then they have a look at the drone. Just depends on how much the drone's actually moving itself. I wonder if they're thinking in their head, this is a very interesting bird that's following us around. I've told some of you some stories about pied crows that used to chase and follow leopards around on one of the properties that I worked at. And they would do something sort of similar, but obviously much closer to the lions, to the leopards themselves. I'm just gonna pull around like this, and they should be popping out right in front of me. Just down the way here. Beautiful. Seb KB would like to know how close the operator of the drone has to be.
I can be 5 500 meters away, even from the subject.
Seb says he can be up to about 500 meters away, max from the subject, so 500 yards, so 5 American football lengths away, and still be able to control the drone from where the subject is. Hello, my girl. You're gonna come right past my door, are we? Of course you are. So everyone, it's very interesting. So we see, obviously, the lions walk past our vehicles a lot, but I want you to notice what I did with that, you saw it with the drone earlier, is I came around and I parked, and they didn't really deter from their movement at all. They just carried on doing what they were doing. And it gives you guys a good idea of how much we interact with each other in the environment and how much they really don't care, you know, in general of what we do. Alright, so Thandi's still looking for a cub and she's still in her tree, but I think let's head back to her and we will keep following these lions. Hope you all are enjoying the extended show.
Well, she's actually not looking for the cub anymore. She's been sleeping since you left us. No more contact calls. And I guess this is hopeful, a hopeful sign, because the fact that she's not panicking just yet and in a frenzy running around calling, looking, I think indicates that she herself is not too concerned at this stage. So we're going to stay put. It's too soon to panic, but of course we are all a little bit concerned as to where exactly this cub is and what exactly it is doing. To search where she was very stealthily seeking out some lion that did move very close by this area last night. If maybe the cub didn't feel kind of left out and didn't try and come down the tree while Mom was away, hard to be certain. But the last we know is that the cub was somewhere up in this very same tree. I'm fairly certain that's what happened when Thandi descended and then headed off. But where the cub headed to thereafter, and I'm not sure. I mean, Tristan was probably gone for about 15 or 20 minutes with Thandi before she returned. And in that 15 or 20 minutes, evidently, this cub has either got very unlucky and been chomped by something, or just headed off and tucked itself away a little bit further away than Mom would have liked, or at least in an area where Mom doesn't exactly know at the moment. Jenny, you would like to know if this is Thandi's first cub. It certainly is not. She's an 11-year-old female, and I'm actually not too sure exactly how many cubs she's had, but one of her most recent litters was of a young male, that made it to adulthood. He's called Tamba, and I'm guessing she has had a few more successful litters that were actually raised. She would have had multiple cubs that have not made it, and that's the case with most leopards. There's very few leopards that actually raise more cubs than they lose. It's 90% of the time the other way around. They lose more cubs than they raise. And it's important to remember, Jenny, that if she has in fact lost this cub now, she could come into season as soon as a week or two from now. And 3 months after coming into season and mating, she'll give birth to another litter. So in theory, I mean, a leopardess could give birth to 3 different litters in a year and lose all of them. I know of a female from the southern Sabi Sands when I started my guiding career that was incredibly unfortunate in that there was often a lot of kind of rogue males moving through the area, and she most of the time lost her cubs to males. And she was an 8-year-old female when she died, and she had never raised one cub to adulthood, yet she had given birth to many litters, like I said, most of which were killed by male leopards that were not in fact the father of those litters. She sadly got sliced open by a warthog when she was obviously trying to catch it. She really injured her paw very badly, and that led to her demise. I think so much relies on actual luck as opposed to good parenting with regards to leopards. You know, if we take this morning, for example, some lions moved very, very close past this area, but they didn't in fact find it. Had they found it, it would have been a very, very different scenario. I'm almost certain their kills would have been stolen, and who knows what would have happened to that cubs had those lions have stumbled onto the scene, yet they didn't. And I think very often some leopards either just get lucky with situations like that, and others get unlucky. For now, though, I'm banking on her relaxed nature or kind of mood at the moment. Thank you very much to James Richards, who's confirmed that this is her 5th cub that could be raised to adulthood, but she has raised another 4 different litters. How many from each litter, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if it's 4 individuals or 4 different events where she could have possibly raised, 2 leopards at the same time. Okay, so she's raised 4 individuals to adulthood. I think Tumba was the most recent. I'm not too sure the names of the others or where they've ended up. And let's hope that her possible 5th is still alive and kicking. Like I said, judging from her kind of behavior and her mood, she's not looking too stressed, and I'm hoping that she knows a little bit more than we do. Very good. Well, we're going to stay put for a little bit longer and send you back to Noel and the lions.
All right, we've packed up the drone. It's a little bit dark, and also they've started contact calling for the rest of the pride, so I'm hoping we'll be able to hear that at some point if they do it again. And they're just doing what lions do, which is carrying on down the road, walking in the straightest possible line, which for now is the road. There you can just see the drone in the corner. Sorry about that. The drone sits next to me on this little box. So I'm on Jigga. Jigga's our vehicle that we use with the drone. Oh, listen, listen. Oh, they were just doing it. There. They're doing it very quietly. I'm going to just get a little bit closer, and then they're going to keep doing it. They're going, ooh, ooh, ooh. Let me just come up a little bit closer. Okay, we might be able to get it now. You hear it? She's listening. You hear that? We're not too far from where the rest of the bride is. She's doing a very soft ooh. The reason why she's doing it quietly as well, she doesn't want to give away too much of her position, because obviously they're still hunting, or possibly hunting. Not physically doing it right now, but it's a definite possibility. Okay. Let's carry on with our follow me scenario, us and the lions. Everyone, don't forget, we're still live and interactive, so you can still send through your questions, Chuck Norris jokes included. Faye, good question. You're curious to know what happened with that lioness with her injury. So what I was saying, we didn't actually see what happened, but what I was saying is it looks like it's possibly something that happened during hunting. Not that another animal attacked her, but a possibility. And Tristan was saying that it had something to do with a tree, like maybe she got sort of stuck on a tree or caught in a tree, so it could have been during hunting, or maybe she was climbing. But it's right at a funny little joint, so when she lies down, wound actually folds up like this, and because it does that and then it opens and then it folds, that's one of the reasons why it still looks so bad. But it's looking much better from the first time I saw it in November, and then viewers who have been watching longer than that have been saying that it's looking especially better since you know, they first saw her with the wound. So this pride of lions, the Nkuhumas, they're not always with us on this property. They move to other properties that we can't necessarily get to. So we've been lucky. They've been here now for what, about a week, everybody? Yeah, for about a week. And so we've been getting very, very, very nice sightings out of them, which is absolutely fantastic. This is actually quite a nice view. We've got the one right in front of us, and then the other one's already up the hill. Slowly walking and calling. I feel like I can hear hyenas way in the background. So lion's contact call is ooh, ooh, and then a roar is ooh, ooh, ooh. And then hyenas will do a whoop, whoop, whoop. Alright everybody, I believe that there's a hyena, speaking of whooping, around with Scott. And we haven't come across anything for these lionesses to eat, and we also haven't run into the rest of the pride yet. So I think let's head on over to Scott with that hyena and with Thandi, and then hopefully tomorrow morning we will find whatever happens with these Nkuhumas tonight, and I will see you then.
Well, the hyenas just slunk off somewhere behind me. It was initially right at the base of this marula tree, sniffing around, trying to look for any tidbits, and it was the exact same hyena that we did see a little bit earlier. There it goes. And quite a pretty hyena, actually. Very distinctive dark spots, and looks to be in great shape. Guessing it's a youngster. And quite easy to tell apart from other hyenas, so confident that it is the same one that she did chase off earlier. She didn't really pay too much attention to it. She's still snoozing up in the tree and doesn't appear to be too concerned about anything. Very good. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed the extended drive this evening, and we're gonna stick around here for a little bit longer, just until it gets dark, and then see what happens. Maybe we'll stay out with infrared lights to see if we can't get to the bottom of this mystery of the missing cub. So be sure to check any notifications for any surprise broadcast a little bit later on. For now though, it's time to say goodbye. Thanks so much for joining in on this evening's safari. Be sure to tune in tomorrow to find out what happened with this little cub.